things are changing. When Don't Ask, Don't Tell was adopted in the early 90s, that was as far as it could go, because that was as far as the government was willing to allow this to move forward.
Because I think we're at an interesting time in history to be dealing with this issue. When we first dealt with Don't Ask, Don't Tell, or at least, you know, my generation, I'm sure people have dealt with it before, but it was 1993, obviously, with Clinton. And at the time, I had worked sort of on the side with Senator Kennedy's office working on the issue while I was still a Republican working in a Republican office, so that's its own fun story for another day. But what was interesting at the time was we were fighting a civil rights battle, and the military was fighting a national security battle against us. And it's really come sort of a 360 or 180, whichever way you want to look at it, in that we are now fighting the national security argument on our side. And of course, we're still talking about it as a civil rights battle, but because we're at war, and we're at a war that's become an absolute disaster, and at the same time we don't have the translators, the national security argument is totally on our side. And what I found debating this, and these guys have as well, is the other guys really don't have any more arguments against us anymore, other than, you know, you don't change policy mid-war. That's like the argument they keep using. So I just think there's an incredible opportunity now to actually lay some groundwork to start changing people's minds on this issue. And far too often, I think in the gay community, we take issues, and I think it's also a lefty problem, and I'll close with this concept. We want to change policy, and we always just think about, well, let's just offer legislation and change it. And we're not like folks on the right where we think of actually changing people's minds over a 10-year period or whatever to win. And I think what you're seeing now is, not that it hasn't happened before, but there's a real effort, a real opportunity now to go out there and start changing people's minds so that we can get legislation and the policy passed.